Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Plan TAC. My name is Brittany Ward, and I'm the city engineer for Sandy City. I will be chairing this meeting as past chair, as our two current chair and vice chair aren't here today. So we will start off today with an action item of approving the meeting minutes from our May and March meetings, March 24th and May 28th. Is anyone willing to provide a motion for that approval?
I motion for that approval. Chad Anderson, MSD.
Thank you, Chad. Can anyone second that?
I will second that. Matthew Castle, Riverton.
Thank you, Matt. And our second item is for a review of the TIP program. And Ben Worthridge is over that. And so I'll turn the time over to him to go through those business items.
Brittany, should we go through the formality of taking a vote?
I think we should. That's very wise. All in favor to pass the meeting minutes from last time, say aye.
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? Okay, we're clear. Ben, I'll turn over to you again.
Perfect. Thank you, Brittany. Special thanks to Brittany. She just got handed the baton here just a minute ago. We're missing our chair, and I did see our vice chair pop online, so good to have you on. The first thing that we have in our agenda as far as a TIP action, and that is a board modification that we have. This is for PIN 22087. It's the UTA TechLink Tracks project. This is what it was identified or is currently programmed in the TIP with this name and description. You'll recall that back when the TAC committee had an opportunity to review and approve this project, it was a request that came to us last year. This was a request for the environmental and concept design. That's okay. For the tech link, or what's commonly being referred to now as the orange line or the red line. This was to do, the initial request came in as an environmental and concept design for the project. Estimated project cost was 3.8 plus million. Funds being requested was $2 million. During that time, UTA had gone to work and was trying to identify additional funding for this project. As we move forward with staff and as the TAC approved this project, we approved the funds for the design and development of the project, not the environmental document of the project. But as this project has moved forward, it's been identified, additional funds have been identified, and this $2 million is requested as a match toward the design, or excuse me, the environmental and the concept design of the project. So the reason for bringing this board modification before you is a change in scope. The request was or is that these funds be allowed to be used for the environmental portion, as well as then to move into the concept design of the project. The request is also to bring these funds forward so that they align with the other funds that are available. So it's a twofold request to bring the funds forward out of concept development and to change the scope to allow these funds to be used on the environmental portion of the project. Any questions? Madam Chair, if we could have an action then.
Before I ask for a motion, is there anybody that would like to bring up any discussion on this item? If you're online and want to speak, then you can either raise your hand or just start speaking. Okay, I will call for a motion then to approve the additional funds for the UTA project.
Madam Chair, correction on that. It's to allow the funds to be used as in the environmental document and to bring them forward. No additional monies.
Okay, thank you.
A motion to approve the modification for that, this is the 2025 to 2030 tip, right? Is that item?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, the modification. Chad Anderson, MSD.
Is anyone willing to second that motion?
I will second that motion. Matthew Castle, Riverton.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
All right.
Is there anyone that wants to vote against this motion? Okay, seeing none, that motion has been approved.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item then for the Transportation Improvement Program, as you're well aware of the schedule and the process for identifying new projects. Last October or last September, when we requested letters of intent, they were due to us early October, and then we went through the concept design, and we'll get into more of the schedule and the alignment of things. But the part we want to bring before you today is what has happened since we met last. And if you'll recall, back when we met, I guess I switched my slides around. Well, when we prepared to go out for public review and comment, we prepared all of the tables. So we had the new projects that were added into the existing programs, making all of the programs draft programs. And we purposely in the document set aside or have an additional document in there that has the SDP, the CMAC, the TAP, and the CRP. Those programs that WFRC has a responsibility to program, we put them in their own tables to facilitate the ability for any of you or any of our elected officials or the public to see those projects specifically. But they are dovetailed into them with the remaining projects from UDOT and UTA and other projects that are identified, and you can find those projects in the table in EPM. So you have all the others, you have the transit, but in addition to the tables with the project, we have the air conformity memorandum, which determined that the 2026-2031 Transportation Improvement Program was in conformity. And so that this information was made available. We went out for public review and comment, but back when we met together, we reviewed this material and information with you in preparation for your recommendation to TransCom. So this calendar should have been on the other side of all that. So back in on the 28th of May, this body reviewed the information, recommended that we go to TransCom and seek for approval to go out for public review and comment. They met on the 19th. The request to go out for public comment and review initiated on the 28th of June and then concluded on the 2nd of August. During that time, we had 3 public open houses. We had one in Salt Lake on the 8th, one in the Ogden Lake area on the 22nd, and then we had an online public meeting there on the 29th. From that information, with the interactive map, we were able to get quite a few comments, and in a minute, we're going to have Wayne walk through the summary and discussion on the public comments received. But here we are on the 6th today, and our intent is to review this information with you. Then for the opportunities, if there's any concerns, otherwise we plan to go to TransCom on the 21st for their review of the materials and recommendations to the regional council, which will meet on the 28th. And it is in that meeting that we're seeking approval for the 2026-2031 Transportation Improvement Program. That information then will be combined with the other MPOs of the state and with the statewide Transportation Improvement Program in the STIP. That information then will be submitted to Federal Highways and the Federal Transit Agency, and they will review all of the information during the month of September with the intent that we have a new and approved 2026, 2031 Transportation Improvement Program. And that's where we are in this process. And as that starts here at the end of the month, I want to point out that the process for the 2027, 2032 tip will begin in August. But we're going to talk about that in just a minute. We want to turn it over to Wayne here to review with this some of the public review and comment.
Thanks, Ben. So um, the interactive map, between the interactive map and 3 open houses, we've received over 400 comments on the tip. And thank you to any of you who elected to comment. The open houses this year were held at the Salt Lake Bees Stadium in South Jordan and at the Raptors Stadium up in Ogden. And then we had an online webinar also. And all 3 of those yielded quite a few comments. And so we were glad to see a good amount of participation. Just highlighting some of the themes in among the comments. Many commenters expressed support for bicycle infrastructure projects in the tip. Many commenters expressed a desire for additional safe bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. Many requests were made to safely accommodate bicyclists and pedestrians in specific roadway projects. And many commenters expressed a desire for improving or upgrading the transit system. And then a lot of requests for expanding the transit system as well. Many spoke in favor of the Rio Grande, the citizen-based Rio Grande plan, and many spoke against a road project in Emigration Canyon. Several comments were made in support of transit projects in the tip, including many comments in support of the proposed concept for the red line / or orange line / red line and front runner double tracking. And then several specific roadway operational improvements were desired. So that gives you a flavor of those 400 plus comments.
Thank you, Wayne. Any questions on those or any of that? So let me tell you then where we go from here with the comments. So in those comments, we will review all of the comments with our partners and we will prepare responses for them. Then as we meet with UTA, as we meet with UDOT, as we meet with local jurisdictions, we will disseminate those comments that are specific for their areas so that we have the opportunity to include those comments as we're reviewing and moving forward with these projects. Many of you are aware that there's been projects where we've saved money due to the comments received from the public. There's been adjustments to projects. We've had improvements to projects, and sometimes we've totally withdrawn the projects. But we value, as you do, the public involvement. That's our responsibilities to our citizens, is to make sure that we're utilizing those funds that are available to the best use, as well as to accomplish the responsibilities or task of the transportation improvements along the Wasatch Front. So we'll be in touch with you if there's projects that are specific to some of your projects, or if there's comments specific to your projects, we will forward that information on to you as well. Any questions on the draft transportation improvement program? Any concerns for us moving forward to TransCom for the review and recommendation to the regional council? Okay, if that's all right, Madam Chair, if I can go on to the last item on my part.
Sure thing.
Thank you. So going back to the chart then that we have that identifies or highlights the steps of the project. There she is, right there. Okay, so we highlighted or noted that at the end of the August meeting, we'll request from the regional council direction to send out a request for letters of intent. Those letters of intent, they will be due back to us end of September, 1st of October. Then we will review those letters of intent at a real high level for eligibility and then make a request to the potential project sponsor that they submit the project evaluation concept report or application. Those will be due sometime in mid-December, and then we'll begin the evaluation process and move forward. Now, in the past, we've had a lot of interaction, and we appreciate the efforts that are made, but we've also had a lot of requests. What kind of projects can I use on my funding? And this body is the two TransCom TACs, the ones who are probably most involved with the capital improvement programs. That's your SDP, the CMAC, TAP, and the CRP. You're the only groups that, because of the timing of our meetings, you don't get to see the brief, very fancy, the presentation on our funding programs. It actually just explains real quick in a nutshell what these are. But we want you aware of it. And as the regional council gives us direction to seek letters of intent, we'll send out to all of you a funding packet, which will have on the front of it the list of the funding that's available to the communities. And then there'll be a one-pager for each of the programs to help you identify a good project or to think of a good project. But something that I would recommend that's even a little easier, helps you as you're thinking through, is if you go into the tables and there's a link to the tip table in the meeting summaries there, but if you go into the section like the STP section or the CMAC section, these are all of the projects that are currently on the tip that have been funded and reviewed by this committee. You can look at all of those different types of projects, and hopefully that'll help plant some thoughts on where you've got some needs. Maybe it's a safety project, maybe it's a road to rehab. Well, not a rehab, but a reconstruction, or maybe there's curb gutter and sidewalk missing. This will help you identify or review and reflect back what's already been approved so that you have an idea of what your city needs are and potentially submit a letter of intent. Then we would request from you that on your letters of intent, it's a very simple request. It's essentially the name of the project and from and a to, and maybe a 2 or 3 sentence, what you want to accomplish and an estimated cost. I would put your wish list in that letter of intent. Throw out, or throw up's even the wrong word to use, but I would put out that list of those projects, submit them back to us, and then before you have, and then, or during the time that you have to evaluate whether you're going to submit a concept report or not, then you can narrow down that list a little. But think and look around your cities. What are the needs that exist? What are funding sources that are available? And submit those letters of intent. And then if you've got questions or concerns on what may or may not be a good project, let us know. We'll work with you and help you so that when you submit that concept report, you're not overwhelmed with the number of reports you need to do, but you've also got a good candidate that potentially will receive funding in this next go around. Is there any questions on where we are in the process or the next things that will be coming up? Need to be watching your emails in late August, early September. Okay, Madam Chair, that's all I have.
Thank you, Ben and Wayne. That concludes item 3 as well. Is that correct, Ben? The discussion opportunities. Okay. So then our item 4 is a presentation from the Greater Salt Lake MSD, and that will be given by Chad Anderson. And I will turn the time over to him.
Try to share my screen. Okay. All right. Yeah, so I'm Chad Anderson. I circled myself there. Also included the other staff with the Greater Salt Lake MSD that is related to TransCom TAC. So Liesl Allen is online. She's the Director of Engineering, my boss. Tamarin Woodland is the other engineering manager. I cover Kearns, White City, and unincorporated. She covers Magna, Immigration, Copperton, and Brighton, as you can see there. Ian Hartman, I don't know if he's online, is our traffic engineer. And Julia Gaia is here. She's the long-range transportation planner. So I wanted to talk about what the MSD is because I think there's a lot of confusion around what we do in the first place. So short version is we are a special service district under the state of Utah. We provide municipal services to Brighton, Copperton, Immigration, Kearns, Magna, White City, and unincorporated areas of Salt Lake County. Sorry. We're funded through municipal sales tax, Class B and C highway funds, grants like from WFRC, other revenues. So, and the MSD board of trustees is the mayors of the cities, plus a city count or a county council person for unincorporated. And that's pretty much everything from that one. You can see the map here of the areas we serve. Magna's the big one, big and growing. You can see Kearns, White City, Copperton over there on the left. Immigration Canyon is over there and Brighton. And the shaded areas are the unincorporated areas of Salt Lake County. Now, there's a lot of area out there and a lot of it is forest land or, less developed areas mostly. So a little history. Historically, Salt Lake County provided these services to the unincorporated areas. It's the largest provider of municipal services in Utah from 1980 to 2015. As the communities, as communities incorporated into cities, the cities tended to annex areas that were being developed. So a lot of the commercial space went to incorporated areas. Basically made it so the county didn't have funding to provide, these services to the unincorporated areas, to what were, just unincorporated areas at the time. Anyway, the state legislature authorized most unincorporated area voters to choose their futures in 2015. Unincorporated townships became municipalities, but voters in each township would choose whether to make their community a metro township or a city. Anyway, and they could also annex into neighboring cities. See, Mill Creek Township at the time became a city. The other townships chose to become metro townships. It was a new type of municipality with most of cities' powers. They chose to have their services provided by the MSD also. So the county council created the MSD in late 2015. Voters elected the metro townships elected council members in 2016. The chair of each council became the MSD board member, during that time. Board also included Mill Creek, which is a member of the MSD from January through June of 2017, but is no longer part of the MSD. I just put it under here. Not under the county. County's unincorporated areas are served by the MSD. Some of the MSD services are provided by the county. So we're running in a circle that, anyway, I'll show you the services here in a second. Couple more items. House Bill 35, which was passed last February, then made these metro townships become cities or official towns. So converted 4 of the metro townships into cities and Copperton into a town last May. Same obligations as other cities to meet their community's needs. Fire and police are provided outside of the MSD. So the cities and towns contract directly with those entities outside of the MSD. Voters of each community, rather than city council members, directly elect the mayor. So all of our mayors basically are up for election this November, and they were previously the chair of what was the Metro Township Council, anyway, and then stayed in as they became cities and are now up for election. So this is all changing for us. The cities and towns have the authority to impose a municipal property tax, which they didn't before. That allows them to fund the services. And one that's related to Sandy, especially unincorporated areas, you can see outlined here, bunch of pockets that are in Sandy. House Bill 330, which was passed last year, I think, right? Anyway, yeah, 2024 makes all of these pockets, they're basically required to annex or incorporate or automatically be annexed on July 1st, 2027. So a lot of our unincorporated areas that are developed in these pockets are going away. So they'll be Brittany's. Yeah, Brittany's to serve. The Granite community, however, is especially these areas right around Dimple Dell Park. If you can see my cursor, they are, as far as I know, they're still doing a study to determine whether or not it is feasible and whether or not they want to incorporate as their own city. And that may be one or more of those pocket communities. So you can see the services here that the MSD provides. I'm not going to go through all of them, but things like HR, finance, budgeting, IT, communications, legal, code enforcement. Some of these services, animal control, parks, public works right of way, those are all still provided by Salt Lake County. So even though we do the engineering for all of the MSD communities, for maintenance of those roadways and sidewalks and storm drains and all this, Salt Lake County Public Works Operations still provides that. So, but funded by the MSD for the communities. I think I skipped one. There's also one that basically planning, engineering. Those are most of the other ones. Anyway, all of the services that most cities provide to their residents, most of those the MSD provides to the communities. Then I just wanted to run through, had a few slides for projects funded by the funded by WFRC. Let me actually flip through. Oh, they're right here. Don't know why it didn't come up, but, not a PowerPoint guy. Anyway, okay, one of our big ones, project that I'm really proud of, is Cougar Lane. This is a project that is almost done being constructed. Most of the, I guess the kind of core or the beginning part of the project was a shared use path that runs from here, Niagara Way. This is just north of, actually, north is to the right here. You can see the tennis courts here. This is all the ice, the Olympic Oval ice arena to the west of Cougar Lane. Anyway, so here in front of all that, there's going to be a 12-foot shared use path, actually split 6 feet of bike lane that's going to be dyed green and 6 feet of walking. And anyway, what that does is it gets the traffic off of what was a bike lane on the street and opens that up to another vehicular traffic lane, which solves a big traffic problem that has been happening from 5400 South onto this road especially on weekday mornings during school. So anyway, great project, almost done. Another one is sidewalks, curb and gutter on 4220 West in Kearns. You can see kind of the schematic here from the environmental document. That is just starting design. A big one is a corridor study for 5400 South from Bangor all the way out to Mountain View Corridor here on the west. Basically looking at some really conflicting or competing interests in making sure that the long-term vehicular mobility is provided for, but also, this is the middle of Kearns Town Center, kind of here in the middle of the graphic. And, Kearns obviously has an interest in connecting their town center to the extent possible. So we'll be looking for creative solutions to, I guess, meet all of the needs. White City, there is a project bordering Sandy here on the east side of what is Seagull Lily Drive. This will change the profile of the east end of the road that will allow for a crosswalk. We're currently at 1300 East. As you turn onto Seagull Lily, this takes quite a dive, and this is way too steep for a crosswalk, north to south on this west leg. So it'll be flattening out the intersection, carrying that profile, out toward the west here, and then basically joining back in with the existing profile of the road. Another one is MSD wide. The WFRC has funded a transportation plan for all of the communities together. Basically, it kind of marries all of what is currently a bunch of different transportation plans done by different consultants, and this brings them under one large plan with, different segments for each community. And that's all of my presentation. Happy to take any questions if anybody has any. Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you, Chad. I appreciate it. We will move on to the draft preferred scenarios for the 2027 through 2055 Regional Transportation Plan. And that will be presented by the LRP group. Are they online?
Brittany, it's Jory.
Hi, Jory.
I just did that for whoever's taking the meeting minutes, it'll be fun when they get to the 40th minute of this meeting and get to hear me. All right, let me share screen really quick. Give me 2 seconds to at least make it look pretty. All right, can you see that?
Yes, we can.
All right. Jory Johnner, Director of the Long Range Planning Group here at the Wasatch Front Regional Council. I want to give you all an update on the development of the 2027 to 2050 Regional Transportation Plan with a focus on the draft preferred scenario. So hopefully you all remember this process chart, but this is an overview of our planning process for the RTP. We started last summer by testing some scenarios and gathering input from you all at the last fall workshops, hosted around the region to kind of develop some concepts to explore. We've been working on analyzing and reviewing those projects, and then starting later this year, we're going to start prioritizing the projects. So that'd be the phasing of the projects within the preferred scenario with a plan to adopt in 2027. So pretty high level schedule. The plan's on a 4-year cycle, right? And we're about halfway through. So with the draft preferred scenario, I want to give you an overview of where the projects came from, how we screen them, and then let you all know that we want your input before we go out to the workshops, at least on a high level. So project ideas, where they all come from, I've alluded to it a little bit, but a lot of the projects that we're testing right now not a lot. All the projects in the 2023 to 2050 Regional Transportation Plan, including the amendments, since we've adopted it, are being screened through our preferred scenario process. Multimodal includes active transportation, transit, roadway projects. And like I mentioned, it includes the amendments. Mentioned, we had our fall workshops. These included the 8 small area workshops with you all as engineers, elected and appointed officials. So that's your mayors, councils. And we also met with invited planning commissioners, economic development staff, planners, city managers, etc. And then again, multimodal and land use. So we did adopt, I think you all know that we did adopt the update the Wasatch Choice Vision land use layer. So that is now updated based on all your feedback and input at those workshops on the centers. We did also perform some strategy testing and develop strategy testing in the summer of 2024, roughly, with UDOT and UTA. On the roadway side of things, these include optimization of our systems, connectivity, managed lanes concepts, so networks of HOT or reversible lanes across the region. On the transit side, we wanted to test a robust, enhanced bus network, and then also compare that to maybe a little bit not as fine-grained, but a network of fixed guideway system across the whole region. So we tested those. On the active transportation side of things, we developed the Beehive Bikeways network. I hope you're all familiar with that. And then, like I mentioned, this was all developed with UDOT and UTA. So that's kind of the set of projects. So quite a few projects, a couple thousand projects that we're pushing through our screening process. This is a flow chart that kind of represents the RTP process. So at the very top of this, you can see concepts for consideration. So this is anything and everything. So this is all the projects I just mentioned. We've screened them now through the preliminary screening, and some projects didn't move forward. They just didn't make sense to be in the regional transportation plan. Of the projects that move forward, we're doing more of a detailed technical evaluation, and I'll cover both the preliminary and technical screening on a few slides here. So we did technical evaluation. Projects would either move forward to the RTP or to what we have here is a new category called exploratory concepts. There's a couple boxes maybe missing from here. Hopefully you're all familiar with the UTA's long-range transit plan. So that would include things that necessarily wouldn't rise to the level of the regional transportation plan, like local bus service, the on-demand or the via service, express buses, etc. It also doesn't include your active transportation or local active transportation master plans that like more local type of projects would be included in. But for the most part, this captures kind of the whole process and the types of projects. And as you can see there, we're working on developing the preferred scenario in the middle of the screen. And then in 2026, we'll run everything, compare the projects by mode against each other through our phasing criteria, and first identify when projects are needed in 10-year blocks, so phases 1, 2, and 3. And then we are currently right now working on the Utah's Unified Transportation Plan's financial model. And so we'll have some revenue sources by mode, and we'll be able to fiscally constrain our plan in phases, and then we'll have a leftover projects in the unfunded or fiscally unconstrained bin of our planning process. And then, as you all know, at the very bottom, there's always additional study programming, which is what Ben and his group do with you all, and then construction. So this is kind of the overall process. And like I made mention, this is what we've completed and where we're at right now. So again, I think it tracks. We're about halfway through our planning process, and we're halfway through this chart. So everything's lining up there. So for preliminary screening on the road and transit side, we looked at, are they advancing shared goals? Are there community and transportation partner support? And that includes more than like, you know, if one person down a project on the workshop maps, we've followed back up or have reviewed these projects with you all or others within the community to make sure there's more community consensus on projects rather than just one person's idea to explore something. Has there been meaningful planning or analysis? You know, has it been through any other studies? We feel like it's if it's viable, what's the impact to a community or the environment? And then does it just provide overall benefits to the system, you know, relative to the cost of the project? For active transportation, we looked at regional studies. Does the project expand access? And we looked at a facility type review. So a little bit different by mode, but that's how we completed the preliminary screening. For the technical screening, again, more detailed, this requires outputs from our travel demand model, reviewing US RAP and our SS4A, the safety plans, et cetera. So on the roadway side, we look at 5 different categories that projects could fit into and be justified being in the RTP. Is it a capacity type improvement? Is the project operational, meaning we can do things to our existing system that help benefit the overall system without having to add capacity to it? Is the project needed because there's safety issues along it and it's a safety type of project? A lot of our grade separated crossings over railroads, things like that fall in that category. Does the project provide a direct benefit to freight? Or again, is it connectivity? Are these new roads that kind of alleviate barriers or kind of get through areas that don't have connections right now? On the transit side, we're looking at ridership. That's one of our top categories. And then we're also looking at access to opportunity as justifications for being included, and then always looking for community and transportation partner support. Transit doesn't have a lot of cases its own right of way. In a lot of cases, it needs to land on UDOT and UTA or UDOT and local community facilities. And so we're just making sure that you know, there's overall support for the projects on the transit side. For active transportation, taking into consideration the Beehive bikeways and the Utah Trails Network processes, are the projects overcoming barriers, serve a majority of destinations? Is there an upgrade to safety from an existing facility? So this would be, hey, if there's a bike lane right now, is the future project or the planned project supposed to be a separated bike facility? And then looking also for community transportation partner support and facility spacing. So meaning, as you all know, in your local active transportation plans, there's a lot of future active transportation projects. If we stitched all those together, it would just be too much on a regional level. So we're trying to figure out what the right facility spacing is for active transportation across the region. You know, do we have any redundancies or anything like that? So we have taken these draft preferred scenarios out to the Regional Growth Committee, Technical Advisory Committees, and we'll send a link out to you all following the meeting. I won't give it to you here, but expect Jordan to send it out shortly after this. You can leave us a comment. We're looking for these comments. It's going to be a quick turnaround. So I think we put an August 18th day. You all know that we have the workshops, and I'll share that with the details on those on the next slide. Just know that on this map, you have the ability to sort by modes. You can just look at, they're messy, right? Like if you see those 2 maps on the left side or the left and middle of the screen, you'll be able to see the existing plan and then what the preferred scenario. These won't tell you what type of improvements in the modes. These are just the alignments that we're considering for each of the modes. And so let us know if you see something that's either missing, like, hey, you guys, we should have a transit project connecting to this area. It's going to be a high growth area. Or, hey, this is probably not the right place for a roadway project, you know, let's talk about it and consider removing it. Or, you know, there's a gap here in the active transportation and we'd love to see something on the regional transportation plan. Give us all of that information. You'll be able to select a project. it'll require you to put your name, organization, email, because we want to be able to follow back up with you on this. So hopefully that's clear, but when I finish this next slide, if you have any questions on the entire presentation, I'll ask you to shoot me those. So this fall, we have our 8 workshops. Hopefully you all in this meeting have gotten your invite. If you have not, and you would like to attend these, again, these are mayors, county councils, city council, planning commission, city managers, economic development directors, engineers, planners, along with UDOT, UTA. We're inviting your legislative representatives, Federal Highways invited, Hill Air Force Base. There's a handful of agencies that are being invited. We have locations, dates. They're all 4 to 6 o'clock. So hopefully they don't, push you too late into the night. We've done a thorough review of, fall breaks for school districts, other conferences, etc. So if you have not gotten this invitation and would like to attend or like to have it on your calendar, please email Jordan and let her know so she can get that invite sent out to you. We'll be sending some follow-up information, for review prior to the meetings. But we're looking to get input at that meeting, and that meeting will have the detailed information. It'll have modes for the transit. It'll have types of active transportation projects. It'll have types of roadway projects, etc. So this is a great opportunity to give us input. And then we'll spend a few months following up with you all after that input you give us, and then we'll start phasing projects, and we'll work all very closely with you and the planners in identifying when projects are needed in the 10-year phases. So with that, you can send me an email. So jory.johnner@wfrc.utah.gov. If you did not know that we changed our emails at addresses and website at WFRC, you do now, right? No more WFRC.org. Stuff will get to us, but I don't know for how long. Or if you don't want to spell out my whole name because you can't remember how to spell it, longrange@wfrc.utah.gov will get to me and everybody in the long range planning group if you have thoughts or comments following this. So Brittany, that concludes my presentation. Any questions from anybody?
I'm not seeing any, Jory.
All right. Hopefully that was clear as mud.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Jory, and to the Long Range Planning Group as well. That brings us to our last presentation, which is electric vehicle and charging station funding. And that will be given by Christina Johnson.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting myself and my team. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you see that?
I see it.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to take that as a yes. Hi everyone. My name is Christiana Johnson, and I go by my initials CJ, and I'm a grant manager with the Utah Division of Air Quality. I'm here with some of my colleagues to answer some questions if you have any, but mostly to provide a high-level overview of some of the funding for electric vehicles and EV chargers that our division will be administering over the next few years. So I just want to start with the kind of high-level overview that we have more than $200 million for transportation-related programs. And the bulk of it is for electric vehicles, heavy-duty electric vehicles, and EV chargers, as well as some other projects, which I'll get into the detail later on. But really, this is an unprecedented amount of funding that we have been able to secure over the past year or so, primarily for Utah fleets, but also for Utah residents in all of your cities and along the Wasatch Front. So I'm just going to give first an overview of the different funding sources, and then I'll go into some more detail about just a few of the funding opportunities. But first, I wanted to talk about the EPA Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. You might have heard of this as the Beehive Emission Reduction Plan, but this includes 2 grants. So there's a planning grant that is in process. It's a comprehensive plan to reduce emissions to 2050, and there have been some transportation focused meetings, and then the other grant included with this is the CPRG implementation grant, which is about $75 million to actually, as the name suggests, to actually implement projects that reduce emissions. So I will go into detail about that one a little bit later. But I also wanted to mention the EPA Clean Ports Program grants. This includes $110 million for deployment of electric vehicles and equipment, as well as solar at the Salt Lake City Intermodal Terminal specifically. And then I also wanted to mention that the Utah Inland Port Authority secured a planning grant as a part of this program, and they will be implementing those planning activities, also focused on, again, reducing emissions from the vehicles and equipment at the Salt Lake City Intermodal Terminal. Then I wanted to also talk about the EPA Clean Heavy Duty Vehicles Grant, which is $60 million total. Most of it is for electric school buses, working with school districts in Utah. And there's also $18 million for electric vocational vehicles. And I also wanted to go through some kind of existing and ongoing funding that my department manages. So there is more than $16 million available through our Utah Clean Fleet program, which is exclusively focused on reducing emissions from fleet vehicles, both public and private. So that includes $10 million through the Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Trust. And I will also be going into more detail about this one. And then there's also $6 million through the Diesel Emission Reduction Act funding. And then we will be administering $1 million through the Carbon Reduction Program. So to just give more detail about the CPRG implementation grant, which is about $75 million. This, again, the bulk of it is for fleets. And so it's for electric vehicles and EV chargers, both for public and private fleets. And so this includes funding for light duty electric vehicles, electric delivery trucks, electric refuse haulers, electric transit buses, and electric school buses across the state. And then there's also some funding for standalone funding for electric vehicle chargers for those fleets, as well as for workplaces and multifamily housing and some other entities. And then finally, just wanted to touch on some of kind of the other miscellaneous programs that are funded through this grant. So there is funding for individuals to access light duty EVs, e-bikes, electric yard equipment, as well as residential solar. And there's also funding for energy efficiency assessments for buildings, as well as outreach and education to residents and entities in order to access all of this funding. So we're excited to be partnering with some local universities on that. And then, as I said, I wanted to give some more detail about the Volkswagen or VW Environmental Mitigation Trust. So this is funding that is exclusively for government entities, and there's over $9 million available for the medium heavy duty vehicles, and then $1 million available for EV chargers. And the second round of funding for this program will be launching soon. So we're excited about that. And then another funding opportunity that I wanted to mention, while we're, talking about all these grant opportunities, there's another opportunity through federal tax credits. And so government entities can actually access federal tax credits through a mechanism called direct pay. And because of recent federal legislation, these federal tax credits for electric vehicles and EV charging stations will be ending a lot sooner than originally planned. So the federal tax credit for electric vehicles is available until the end of September of 2025, and the federal tax credit for EV charging is available until summer of 2026. And so government entities might be interested in looking into that sooner rather than later if you're interested in pursuing that. So just wanted to go over the kind of next steps for our agency. So we're actually still in the process of hiring some additional staff for our team to help stand up a lot of this new funding and a lot of the new programs. We're tentatively planning on launching the applications for these new grant programs this fall, and they will be open for the next few years. We have this funding until 2029 is when we're planning on spending all of it. So we'll be, continuing to educate stakeholders about it and develop the programs through that whole time. But yeah, tentatively planning on launching a lot of the programs this fall. And with that, just wanted to provide our website. You can learn more about all these programs and again, stay updated on when we actually open the applications. And with that, I'll end there. And yeah, my colleagues are here if anyone has questions about the specific programs. But yeah, please feel free to reach out to us after the meeting as well if you have any questions or follow-up feedback. But yeah, I'll just pause and see if anyone has questions. Thanks so much for your time.
Any questions for CJ? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
That concludes all of the scheduled items on our agenda today. Are there any other business items or items that anybody wants to bring up? Okay, our next meeting will be on October 15th, and the city presentation and meeting refreshments will be provided by yours truly, Sandy City. And if there isn't anything else, then I will take a motion to conclude and close the meeting.
Motion to adjourn. Addison Bluffdale.
Thank you, Bluffdale. And is there a second?
Second, Chad Anderson, MSD.
Chad, you're on a roll today. All in favor, say aye. Okay. And anyone opposed? Oh, thank goodness. All right, we'll close the meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Brittany.